6 years ago, I quit my nonprofit job and had my first interview for a corporate position. The staffing agency said I would only meet with a woman who would potentially be my boss, but during the interview, this tall, broad-shouldered man interrupted and asked to steal me for a second. He walked me into what appeared to be a broom closet and asked me if I had plans to have kids anytime soon. I stuttered no, sir, and he said, good, because the last thing we need around here is another mother. I said nothing. I got the job. There was one mother in the 40-person office. The man who walked me into the closet was the company president, and I said nothing because I knew somehow that I was a guest in a place that wasn't meant for me. The word feminist was still in accusation then, and now it's the opening salvo of Beyonce's Super Bowl halftime shows. If I'm not talking about gender, I'm overhearing someone who is. And I confess that even I can get overwhelmed by the talk. So I'm not giving you any more whys for gender parity tonight, but I am here to share a new how. Because currently, US businesses are spending $8 billion a year on inclusion trainings that Harvard Business Review says don't work and actually backfire. For men of color and women in management, trainings actually made things worse. Despite best intentions, they failed to address one critical area, systemic bias. We all have bias. It's lodged in our amygdala. It keeps ticking away when we go to work. It affects how much I like you, what I believe you're capable of, and even how much space I think you take up. The Gina Davis Institute conducted a study on crowds and found that when women make up 17% of a group, they're perceived as comprising half the group. When we hit 33% female, they're perceived as the majority. If we all have bias, our workplaces need to be actively anti-bias by design to ensure room for everyone. A 47% female workforce is a fairly new phenomenon. Was the workplace ever redesigned for them? If we put part of that $8 billion towards inclusive redesign, what would that look like? Let's explore a couple possibilities. Who in here has ever filled out a job app that asked your gender, race, other demographic info at the beginning? It turns out, when women are asked to state their gender before completing a job app or skills test, they actually perform worse than women who were never asked. Quick fix for debiasing the job app: take that gender box, move it to the very end of the application to avoid activating self-stereotyping bias. Example 2. Fortune magazine reviewed performance evals across industries and found criticism like this, related to personality but not job-related skills, appeared in 76% of yearly reviews received by women and 3% of yearly reviews received by men. But in businesses that conduct much shorter but highly frequent reviews, 5-minute weekly evaluations focused on specific projects, the personality criticism vanishes, and the perceived performance gap between men and women is nearly non-existent. While yearly reviews rely largely on overall impressions, which are like petri dishes for bias, short, objectively focused evaluations eliminate this feelings-based gray area. At Gen, we've identified over 100 of these cultural levers that can be adjusted to counter the impact of bias by changing environments rather than mindsets. We use this data to help organizations achieve gender parity, and we're also using it for something bigger. Later this year, we will launch the Gen certification. This will be the first certification for gender parity in the US workplace. Thank you. This benchmark looks beyond the onstage version of businesses to incorporate the mechanics of behind-the-scenes cultural design. You are the first public audience to hear about this, and we need your help. We have what behavioral science can tell us, but human experience is just as crucial, and we need to hear across all genders from all of you. If you go to thinkgen.org and take the survey, you'll be part of creating the gold standard for gender equity in the US workplace. The Gen certification will hold businesses accountable and reward leaders that go beyond just pinkwashing their advertising to embracing truly inclusive design. With no excuses left, time is up. It's time to take talent out of the broom closet and into the spotlight. It's time for gender equity now. Thank you, and happy first day of Women's History Month.